and welcome back to another podcast at Search Engine People called the Get Found Podcast. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm going to be your host today. I'm an account director here at Search Engine People, and I'm joined today with account manager Scott McKeegan.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And likewise. So today we're going to be discussing small to medium-sized businesses in the new world, digital world of AI, and how AI has affected sort of the digital strategy for small to medium-sized businesses. So for anyone who doesn't know who Scott and I are, we are two members of the SMB, or Small to Medium-Sized Business Pod, here at Search Engine People. Primarily, a large book of our businesses are home services and doctors and lawyers and roofers and floorers and siders. So anybody who bricks and mortar type style businesses that require a lot of attention from their customers, and how it's basically the new landscape of SEO has affected their business, and how we as digital marketers need to prepare for this new change, and how we are actively preparing and things that we're doing. So just to give a little bit of a sort of a breakdown for those who are new to the channel as to what's sort of happening within the digital landscape, is the days of traditional SEO are somewhat over. And by that I mean that the traditional blue links in which we used to actively pursue in terms of our strategy are kind of getting pushed down a lot, especially when it comes to things like the introduction of AI Overview. And AI Overview, for those who aren't aware, is essentially a new feature that was launched about a year and a half ago, whereby Google basically comprises a bunch of different answers from multiple different sites that they find credible to produce an answer that basically appears in position 0 now, whereby users don't actually need to click on anything. The answer is provided to them within this new section. And it's basically Google's introduction to AI, along, of course, with things like ChatGPT and Gemini for them. But it has drastically changed the landscape of the SMB pod and anybody else who writes lots of blogs, because essentially a lot of the traffic has been essentially eaten up by this AI Overview. So our strategy may have been towards that in the past. It's shifting now. So we're really excited to talk about the things that are basically opening up for SMBs primarily, and what things that we can do to help our clients achieve those goals of bottom of funnel traffic without relying so much on that blog traffic that we used to get in the past. So Scott, what are some of the things that you have seen with some of your clients in terms of the changes that have been done with the introduction of AI, and maybe something that is sort of the paramount focus now for small to medium-sized businesses?
I mean, even to go before that, it's so typical for Google to start to change things up just when you think you've got a handle on things. Before, back in the day, if you will, when it was just the blue links, and then Google introduced Google Business Profile or Google My Business, and all of a sudden there's a new way of doing SEO where you can't just think about, showing up on page 1 for, what do I do? It's now, what do I do and where do I do it? So now they've introduced something to sort of, I think, help small to medium-sized businesses, which is the AI Overview, which gives them more visibility into how people are actually searching for their products and services. So it's not necessarily going to be any more about plumber in city. It's going to be more queries or questions like, my sink is leaking or my tap is leaking. What do I do to fix it? Or who's the nearest plumber nearby that can help me with this particular issue? Like, the queries are a lot more in depth, and so Google needs to give examples of companies based on that. So it's now more important than ever for an SMB to explain to Google what it is that I do, how do I do it, and why should you pick me over every other company in my space. So we're always trying to figure out, like, what is it that, with search, what is it that makes a company get found within the search results. So that never changes. It's just that now maybe some of the old school techniques of SEO are starting to come back into play a little bit more, where it used to be doing a lot of link building, obviously, and then getting into directories and citations, which kind of fell by the wayside for the last few years. Well, now we know that the AIs and the LLMs of the world are using those as sources to decipher whether or not a business should show up in the search results. So we're now sort of having to go back and reintroduce that type of strategy to these types of businesses. So, I mean, that's just one way. We're helping them. There's so many different variations, I guess, that you can sort of bring into play to help them get found, but that's just one of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things, especially with the SMB world, is we are very much what do you do and where do you do it, and that's not going to change. If you're typing in plumber, plus Toronto right now, you're not going to see an AI overview. And likely the reason why is because that's a very transactional type keyword, right?
Yeah.
And let's face it, a transactional type keyword is where Google is going to feature an ad
Google
at
Ads.
that time. So they're not going to sort of hog that traffic in forms of an AI overview. So you brought up an interesting point is, I've got a leaky roof right now. The psychology of how people are searching these days, like if your roof is leaking right now and water is coming from the ceiling, are you going to chat on ChatGPT and go, I've got a leaky roof, what do I do? Or are you going to go to Google right away and say, roofers Toronto?
Near me, yeah.
So, it's a more of a transactional world still with Google, where ChatGPT is more of that informational type searches that we're finding, but still, it's very much of a what do you do, where do you do it, and try to be there. And with the Google Business Profile that you mentioned, I mean that is a huge thing for SMB pods. Like, what do you think are some things that if business owners are watching this right now, what are some things that they could do on their own right now with their Google Business Profile that can help them sort of solidify their spot within that 3-pack?
Sure. So right away, with logging into their Google Business Profile, Google will have, let's say, 15 boxes or opportunities for somebody to fill out information. And all of those boxes are there for a reason. So the number one thing I always recommend is fill it out. If there's a box, put something in there that best represents your business. And if you don't know, then we'll have to do some research to figure out what that might be. That goes from everything from, the categories. Make sure you have as many categories as you can. Make sure that you're adding in your social media profiles. Make sure you're adding in posts, specials, incentives, whatever applies to your business. And wherever there's an opportunity to enter a box of data, make sure that's filled out first and foremost. And then it's a matter of, how do I present this? How do I start to get reviews? We know that reviews still play a major role in how your business gets found in Google, especially within the map pack. But more importantly, the LLMs now are looking at those reviews, but not just Google reviews, but they're looking at Yelp reviews, they're looking at Facebook reviews, they're looking at Instagram, all these different sources that they're pulling in the data from. So yes, it's important for them to have a really strong Google Business Profile and have it all filled out completely. But then they have to take it a step further and go, okay, what other areas, what other websites can people leave reviews, or are they talking about my brand that I need to be to ensure that I have it all top of mind, that I'm updating them and getting reviews on those as well.
And great point. Like the reviews is a huge thing. Like it's a ranking factor right now, right?
Yeah.
So, but not all reviews are the same, right? You could leave a review that's just 5-star with no comment. Some things that I've told some of our clients is if you're going to solicit review, and we could talk a little bit about good ways on how to do that, but if you're going to solicit a review from someone, one of your clients or someone who's literally in your store right there, always ask them to, potentially mention the type of service. So let's say it is a roofer. We had this company come in and they installed a metal roof, or they put on the 25-year shingles of this type thing. If you're actually talking about the particular service in the particular keyword within the review, that's a really good signal as well for Google or any type of LLM crawler that's going to be crawling in and saying, if you're looking for a metal roof, we notice that this individual roofer in the Mississauga area has supplied something to a very happy client. They'll read things like that.
Yeah. The other thing too, just to build on that, is not that different when you go to make a purchase or a sale in a store, and the salesperson will say, "Hey, do you mind mentioning me at checkout to say that I helped you?" If you can do that same thing and have them actually mention the name of the person or the employee in the review itself, and have that person also named on the website as an employee, well, that goes a long way to sort of tying in and building that authority and that trustworthiness that Google's always looking for.
And good point. And would you ever advise on fake reviews or building that up?
Never.
Okay, good.
Never in a million years. Fake reviews, they'll eventually get pulled down. Google's smart enough to figure out trends and analysis that they'll understand that these reviews are fake. It's not worth your time, and you'll end up getting penalized. Either the reviews will just be taken down altogether, or your business could be, penalized as well. So it's not something that I would encourage. I remember there used to be a rumor going around that you wouldn't want to have somebody give you a review if you're using the same IP addresses that the business is in, because that could be construed as fake. Well, that's been debunked and so forth, so it's not necessarily something to worry about, but you definitely do not want to have a whole slew of fake reviews going to your business.
Okay, reviews. Not all of them are positive.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a bad review.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fact of the matter.
Yep.
What do you tell your clients when they come to you in a panic and say, "Hey, Scott, I just got a bad review.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure who this person is."
Yeah.
What is the advice you would give to your client on that matter?
You want to always have a very neutral review. You want to have a mix of natural reviews. You're going to have some negative ones in there. It's
No one
important.
trusts a full 5-star review.
Nobody does.
company,
It just
right.
looks fake. So you want to definitely be able to, regardless if it's a negative review or a positive review, you want to respond to each and every one of those reviews. Again, it's another trust signal. But most importantly, for the negative review, you almost want to acknowledge it publicly.
Yep.
To show that you care, but try and do your best to take it offline so that you have a chance to resolve the issue with the client and maybe get to the point where either they can then have an update to the review or take it down altogether. Excuse me, but I would always say, excuse me, although we make every attempt to make your purchase journey as pleasurable as possible, sometimes things fall through the cracks. We want to make it right. Would you please email me, the manager, at such and such email address, and then again try and take it offline and have them either change it, update it, or take it down altogether.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you can be successful with flagging them and having them removed.
Sure.
If Google absolutely does. There's ways of doing that by, flagging the review with the 3 little dots there and hope to God that Google will maybe recognize this particular user and then realize this is a spammy review.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that everyone who's watching has done this a bunch of times, whether it be a restaurant or a roofer or professional service, you always tend to go to the reviews and you immediately, at least I do, I go to the 1-star reviews first and see why people didn't like this service. And if someone left a 1-star review and then the owner didn't respond back to it, it doesn't show a lot of pride within that company. So everyone's going to get a 1-star review. It's a fact of the matter. It's the best business owners that respond to that. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so we talked about reviews. We talked about optimizing your Google Business Profile. We talked a little bit about, obviously, to get up in the Google Business Profile, you have to have authority. Google's not just going to rank you there just because you're locally rated. So you have to have link building. Citation building. One of the things that I always talk about is citation building is something, a service like we offer here at Search Engine People, but also to encourage our clients too to try to get citation building within their local community as well, whether it would be a local newspaper or it could be the Chamber of Commerce. As long as you have that name, address, phone number, the NAP, exactly the same, Google will take higher weight towards localized citations for businesses rather than sort of a national type citation.
Yeah, think about all those soccer, baseball, football teams, hockey teams that you sponsor throughout the year, I don't think it's too much to ask them, hey, would you mind if you could link to us?
Good point. Yeah.
Right? And that does go a long way to having that local type of citation, which Google loves.
Yeah, great. So 100%, something that AI is not going to be interfering is with a small to medium-sized business Google business profile.
Yeah.
In the map pack, it's still a big driver of leads. We can see it regularly with our tracking with our clients. That's not going anywhere. Get as many reviews as you possibly can. Optimize your profile with as much pictures. Get citation building and make sure your name, address, phone number is up to date.
Yeah.
And treat it almost like it's your website. If you got a sale coming up, post it. If you got a bunch of services, post it. And like you said, if Google's asking you for something, just give it to them. I mean,
100%.
the almighty Google. They
And
have
if you're going to take the time to go through and update your profile, you might as well make sure that you mentioned it, the name, address, phone number, the NAP is the same across your business, your Google business profile, your website, and all the other directories and citations that your website's on. So Google your address, see what comes up, and make sure that the address in all of those directories matches to what you want to show.
Exact, good point. And social media channels
Yeah.
as well. And so just for those who don't exactly know what I mean, let's just say you live on 123 or you work at 123 Main Street and you type in street in your website, but then you abbreviate it to ST. Google would rather you have sort of a consistency of street across all platforms.
Yeah, you would think Google's smart enough to figure out what your address is. However,
maybe that's a bad example, but
it's a best practice to make sure that your NAP is all the same across all profiles.
perfect. So now we have a very optimized Google business profile. That's going to be step number one. Now, AI overview, we did discuss how it is stealing a lot of traffic from our sites, but there are ways in way we can, a lot of people are like, well, why would I blog anymore if I know that Google is putting all my content into a zero-click search environment?
Yeah.
I think the answer is quite clear, is that as we know sort of how searches are changing over time, like you mentioned, it's not going to be so much plumber in Toronto. It's going to be, I've got my toilet is clogged. What do I do? Who's the best person to look after this scenario? If you do not have content on your site to speak specifically to that and specialized, localized content, you're not going to show up, right?
If you go back to what we talked at the top, which was old school SEO, where blogging used to be critically important for inbound links and for just helping your website get found in Google, it kind of disappeared a little bit. There wasn't as much effort being placed on, it was all social, and brand, which is fine. However, the blog now is having a bit of a resurgence, a renaissance, where it is incredibly important to be adding content to your site. There's an author, Marcus Sheridan, who wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer. And in essence, you definitely need to have all the most important and popular questions that people are asking about your brand and your business. You've got to be able to answer those somewheres. And there's no better place than your website. So if you're doing a prompt in let's say Google Gemini, and you're asking yourself, how come my business isn't showing up there? You have to take a step back and say, well, haven't I given it a reason to find the answer on my website or elsewhere, whether it's Reddit, etc. And if it's not, then you have to create the content and put it on there. I can't tell you how many times a client has said to me, how come I'm not showing up for the best therapist in Calgary, the best plumber in Calgary? And I would ask them, well, is that anywhere on your website? And a lot of businesses will take a step back and go, well, I don't want to be that guy that says I'm the best at. Well, no, not necessarily, but you can frame it in such a way without coming off as arrogant, but still saying, we are the best because of these X factors, right? It's okay to, like you say, to pound the chest a little bit and say, we are the best, and here's why. And if you can validate that, again, that goes to the Google's EAT, and that goes to showing up in the AI overview. So you're bang on.